interest in this. Okay, we are now going to hear from the automotive sector, which is Charlie Hart, who is also from Hitachi, who is one of these early leaders who recognized the importance of SBOM, and in a sector that probably gets supply chain better than any other industry on the planet, said it's kind of strange that we don't have this for software. So Charlie's been driving this in a number of venues. Charlie's joining us remotely. We're good to go.
Okay, first of all, can I get a radio check? Make sure that everything's functional here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Beautiful. Okay, you should be seeing my screen now. I'm going to go full screen, so I won't be able to see the rest of the Teams thing here. Okay, do you see a full screen slide? Alan, full screen slide, yes?
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Charlie Hart. I am a research analyst at Hitachi America. I'm also the chairman of the Automotive ISAC SBOM Working Group, and I'm very happy to be both of those. It's a tremendously interesting job, and the automotive industry is fascinating. I hope you find it as fascinating as I do. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Automotive ISAC's efforts here in particular. We have a working group that I'll get into very shortly. So let's see. It's not clicking. Whoop, there we go. Sorry. A little bit slow here. I'm sorry. Okay, so first of all, this is a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about, but the main thing on this slide is I want to thank Allison Huang and the rest of the Auto ISAC staff, certainly including Faye Francie and Josh Posta for all their help on this. They actually provided a bunch of the material for the slides as well, so many, many thanks there, folks, and appreciate your great support. So quick overview of the automotive industry. It's probably not, you probably know the automotive industry is pretty big. You may not know just how big it is. This is one of the most important, if not the most important, economic drivers globally. $3+ trillion in revenue, 50 countries, many of whom, in many of which are, it is the primary employer, the biggest employer, literally thousands of suppliers in the supply chain. They build 60 million vehicles per year, roughly, more in good years, fewer in bad. But if you can imagine building one vehicle sitting in your driveway, just multiply that by 60 million and you have an idea of the scale. It's very highly regulated globally. The UN regulates, among other things, the automotive industry pretty closely. All nations basically have automotive regulations, and even states and provinces do as well. There are approximately 30,000 parts in a current car, and there probably will increase. And I will say that our overarching priority is always the safety of road users and the public. And that has been very gratifying to see. As I'm sort of a newbie in the automotive industry, and it's really very interesting. And this is the number one thing that I take away from it. So cybersecurity in cars has been becoming an increasing issue as features have become more reliant on cyber. The more cybersecurity. And this is just a quick overview of some of the features you may be familiar with, most of which have happened in the last 10 years or so. They are really making cars much nicer. But at this point, really, it's sort of a cliche to say the car is a computer. Many car companies are looking to treat themselves more as technology companies than as vehicle companies. I don't think the metaphor goes all the way, but you get the idea anyway. Now, the several large automakers, most of whom you probably know, are responsible for those vehicles, just about all of them on the road. But underneath that is a very complex and very large and difficult to manage supply chain. And the automotive industry excels at managing it and has done so for many years. So the cyber supply chain and the software supply chain are two very important evolutions in the automotive supply chain now. And so you see here just a quick illustration of probably 100 or more companies that are involved in the software supply chain for automotive and the technology supply chain. Okay, now so attack vectors have consequently gone up. Now, this slide, I had some other stuff on it, so that's why it built. But the basic idea here is that the more cyber, the more attack vectors. And so the automotive industry has had a few, I think, kind of wake-up calls, and they've reacted, I think, very admirably to those. So they are hyper aware of cybersecurity in the product and also in the support systems that go into it, like over-the-air updates and the IT systems at dealers and so forth. Very, very aware of it, very, very concerned about it, and addressing it proactively across the industry. All right. Now, in the meantime, we'll get back to SBOM for a minute. There have been a flurry of regulations in addition to the usual regulations for automotive. We see here, random things I'll pick out. So NHTSA has cybersecurity practices that they recommend that include SBOM, defense industry, which automotive does play a big part in, with defense vehicles like tanks and trucks and so forth. That has strong requirements for SBOMs. Basically, all of these except the FDA do apply to the automotive industry. And so it behooves us in the automotive industry to stay on top of that and understand it very well. And we do. So toward that end, just very quickly, sort of placing the automotive project for SBOMs in context. NTIA Software Transparency Project kicked off in July of 2018. I did not join that project immediately, although I did in November. And by the way, Hitachi has had a bunch of things going on in both in the US and Japan since that time and perhaps before. And then shortly thereafter, in March of 2019, the Auto ISAC started thinking seriously about SBOMs and putting some actual project work together. And as you can see, we are in 3 phases. We've done 2. The latest one ended in April of 2022. We are in the middle of the 3rd phase now, and we have evolved and grown each of those projects over time. You can see the original project, phase 1, had 10 members. The second phase had 17 members, and currently we count 27 members among our regular contributors, which is a significant commitment from these very large companies. I thank them very much. I thank the members who are participating in that all of these different working group iterations. They've done a tremendous job, very enthusiastic, and it's really a privilege to lead them. So many, many thanks. All right. So our objectives for the current phase are to do multiple tabletop and live fire exercises just to get the industry participants, supply chain participants ready to actually do SBOMs at some point, hopefully in the near future. We are going to attempt to close it up this year. All right, now phase 1 and 2, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but phase 1 was basically kind of scratching our heads and figuring out what the NTIA was doing. I was sort of the representative to that from the industry. And so our job was basically to tell the NTIA, please pay attention to the auto industry, and here are some of the things that we really want you to look at. And so I think by and large, they did we all did a pretty good job on that. Not perfect, but there's most of these issues have been at least addressed partially. And then phase 2 was exploring the implications of SBOM and how they might affect members. And we provided an information report, which is TLP Amber, as most of our...
Charlie, so sorry to interrupt you. Just in the interest of time, 1 or 2 more minutes?
I'm only at 5:30 here.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go quickly. So anyway, so there we go. So phase 3 is operations practice, from rough SBOM beast to SBOMO sapiens. You can see our host, Alan, is the pinnacle of evolution there. All right. And so we did a few things already in phase 3 in operations practice. We first agreed on use cases and some other sort of parameters for our exercises. We conducted 2 exercises, built a lot of understandings, identified findings and key issues and challenges, and we gained exposure to tools and also to the gaps in those tools. And we hope at some point to do a 3rd exercise, we believe in the fall, and we will update those, build more consensus, identify issues, and then issue that final report. Okay, and in the interest of time, I will summarize all this. Very important to the automotive industry to keep everything confidential. We will at some point come out with some public statements on this, but right now it's members only, and we believe confidentiality is going to be intrinsic to the proper use of SBOMs in the auto industry and elsewhere. We will probably not be providing public SBOMs for anything in the automotive industry, but we will be using SBOMs extensively. We agreed on three things: use cases and generic actors to conduct these exercises that expose SBOM operations, and to write that paper. We had our two exercises, as we said. The second round was just in May. We exercised the use cases of creating, naming, transmitting, and analyzing software in SBOMs. And we had 80 attendees, which was just a tremendous turnout. 40 people actually drove or took a plane or walked to the facility, and 40 were virtual. We had 10 OEMs and 20 suppliers. The companies, again, I have to thank all the automotive companies for their unbelievable commitment here. We believe that, at least my back of the envelope estimate, was $1.5 trillion in revenue was represented by those companies, some of the biggest companies in the world. And we found a bunch of things, including the tools are actually pretty good, but do have some gaps, that our products are going to require quite a different management technique from other IT and OT, for example. We don't have a Patch Tuesday for cars, for example. Safety impacts continue to be the top concern, but also enterprise impacts need to be worried about as well. And then working group members would like to find consensus, but we can't mandate anything, right? So it's all up to the customers and suppliers. Finally, we had a new thing this time, which was a tremendous success, which we call Vendor Day. We had 10 vendor companies actually presenting, sort of in a speed dating format. We found that this was a terrific format for giving an overview to the members, many of whom will probably be looking at purchasing or using, certainly, SBOM tools in the very near future. We had 26 individuals attend from vendors, with 7 on site. I want to thank those vendors. It was very successful. We had a really great time, and you can read the slides later if you like, but we found the tools were pretty good overall. And that is it for me, Alan.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Charlie. Really appreciate that. We may not have time for questions, but we're very excited about it. I want to sort of make one more comment on Charlie's approach, which is there are dozens of ISACs out there. Here in the US, we have sector coordinating councils. There are trade associations. So if anyone says, you know what, I want to see if this is a right fit for my community, that's an excellent resource. And again, CISA is happy to work with you to sort of think about how to set that up. You've seen 3 great examples, some of them very public, some of them protected by prearranged industry protection mechanisms. So there are so many ways to get started, and there really isn't a reason not to get started.
Yeah, Alan, one quick plug. I hope all the ISACs are as good as the automotive ISAC, because they are really a tremendous resource. So please encourage your ISACs to get into this.
Fantastic. And that's certainly one of the first steps that I'd recommend is people talk to Charlie in the Auto ISAC as getting started on that.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Charlie. We really appreciate it. Okay.